Broadcasting live from the Business RadioX studios in Atlanta, Georgia, it's time for GWBC Radio's Open for Business. Now, here's your host.
Lee Cantor here, another episode of GWBC Open for Business, and this is going to be a good one. Today we have with us Shandron Pemberton with POSolutions. Welcome.
Hi, Lee. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure.
Well, I am excited to learn what you're up to. Tell us a little bit about POSolutions. How are you serving folks?
Oh, gosh. Well, Lee, we've been around now going on about 18 years. And POSolutions, we're actually a real estate brokerage firm. We with this niche concentration, we deal with asset management. I got to tell you, the basis of which we started here, 18 years ago, was started working with HOA and condo communities. So we still work in that capacity. We manage about 15,000 units throughout the metro area, ranging in sizes all over. So, some people kind of feel that, certain kind of way when you talk about HOA and condo management, but essentially, it was the basis to jumpstart and catapult POSolutions into the asset management arena. From there and dealing so much from a property management perspective, it broadened our understanding as related to, working with federal counties or any government agencies regarding things like custodial services, potentially doing real estate consulting services, because, I am the broker. We are a brokerage firm as licensed with the Real Estate Commission. We equally, because we do deal so much in money and recovery, of dues and making sure those assets are maintained from a leasing perspective as well. We are a fair credit reporting entity. So we do have a collections division internally where we do financial recovery and discovery for our clients. And even in a non-traditional debt collective, perspective as well. But when you think about, asset management as a whole, Lee, whatever it is required to maintain, a portfolio, the portfolio that, a client may have, whether it's, HOA or whether it's a school system and they need custodial services, or, whether it's working with a developer, a housing authority to help from their leasing program or HUD, initiatives. So all of those things are kind of lumped up under, asset management when you think about real estate. And it has truly been a space that I will say has been resiliently.
Now, I have a question. I'm not familiar with the industry as a whole. I've lived in places and rented places, but talk to me a little bit about how the service works from your standpoint. Is it, when you say property management, a property in your view is what? Like, could it be at someone's house? Because there's property management people who help an individual rent their house out, or it could be a condo building where you help that condo building owner, serve their clients and become the manager of that property. Like, how are you defining property manager? Or is it so broad that it can include lots of different things?
Yeah, great question, Lee. So when you do think about property management, you'll tend to see either on one side or the other, from an investment, kind of a single owner, and you may have multiple, rental properties, and you want a property management firm to help you, find a tenant to be placed in that property and collect those rents. In that capacity, we don't operate per se. So we manage neighborhood association programs. So, the developer, may have acquired, a piece of land and they are building a deed restricted community. So that homeowners association or that condominium building, that the entity in itself, because the association isn't a corporation, it's going to be operated by its board of directors. So in most cases, those board of directors have the right to procure property management, and i.e. they'll work with firms such as POSolutions. So from board members, electing to enter into an agreement with the firm, and or whether it is a developer, in itself. And while that developer is building out the property or that particular phase, helping from, understanding what that initial budget and the creation of the covenants and bylaws, the restrictions and things like that from the inception, of the community. So not so more so from an individual perspective, but again, in terms of those neighborhood management programs, that HOA and condo space is where our niche expertise essentially resides. And from there, dealing with so much maintenance on those properties. So it could be, the neighborhood pool or the clubhouse, anything from, again, the financials that are the dues that are paid by the members to maintain the assets. POSolutions is hired to oversee all of that and execute based on the directives of the board of directors. And so from that, again, that maintenance perspective, when you're talking about maintaining those assets, that is where, Lee, we spun off and continue to excel over the years by developing out our full maintenance division. So within POSolutions, as that asset management firm, we have, that neighborhood management, division. We have a maintenance department to include a financial recovery department. So when you're talking about, being connected with a partner like GWBC, that benefit has equated to us, being certified and being a female owned and operated firm, opening us up for a wealth of opportunities, in procurement from the, county perspective. We currently work with the Douglas County School System. We're based here in Douglasville, Georgia, to do some custodial services. We've done work with the Department of Natural Resources and did some maintenance on some of their staff corridors out at a state park. So when you're talking about, think asset management, think about that real property and what all it takes to keep it in good standing. And so not only just from the receipt of the monies to keep it maintained, but equally the work that goes into maintaining it. So if it's painting, if it's roofing, all of those things to make sure that the entity, that real property, the asset in itself is in good standing and keeping the best value as possible in terms of how that asset is performing.
Now, it sounds like your business evolved from starting out with these homeowners associations, and then it's just expanded into, like you said, wherever people had assets that needed to be managed. Is that accurate?
That is absolutely correct. You're quick study, Lee.
So when that's the case, can you talk about that? Because that's a good lesson for business owners. They might think that their initial idea is their big idea, but really that was just your point of entry. And once you kind of looked maybe at a bigger view of what your service was, then you realize that, hey, other people can benefit from that service as well.
Absolutely. And I looked at it from a scalability perspective. Yes again, in terms of we started with HOA and condo management, but as we continue to evolve over the years and going through just understanding, training, education, partners like GWBC, the SBA, went through the Emerging Leaders Program. How do you begin to scale or if, growing organically is one way, typically that's going to bring in more, employees, resources, more financial costs. But if you think about, especially with the current climate and how do you pivot, how can you scale, meaning what you already have access to and what you're doing already, as minimal possible, how can you bring in additional streams of income? Our systems, where is the benefit? There's benefit in the systems that we use from a property management perspective and being able to have, again, in this aspect, you have to be a licensed, agent per the Real Estate Commission, but it is a very specific training and level of expertise. And so, when you think about all of the different areas that you're touching, you have to be creative. I remember when the market crashed, and that is when we first here back in 2007, 7 or 8 or so, it was, hey, I'm getting all of these closing verifications and seeing all these foreclosure notices coming across my desk that we have to process for our HOA and condos, because many of those homes were in the neighborhoods. And, I'm seeing these common partners. And, that is actually when I began exploring my understanding in terms of in the federal market space. It was at that time that we got our first subcontract with working with a HUD partner, and we started doing preservation work on their foreclosures throughout the metro area. And, that took us to a whole nother level. It pushed my understanding of how really to maximize in different areas of the professional insight that we had, quite frankly, Lee.
Right. It was one of those things that it wasn't obvious when you started, maybe, but once you started kind of immersing yourself into it, then these opportunities present themselves, and then you become a logical solution. And in hindsight, it's probably, look, the path was there, but I just didn't see it until I was kind of in it.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right. But education, sometimes it's a lot of dialoguing, and again, connected with affiliates, and having those conversations. Some of my most, intricate moments were talking with other, like-minded business owners and in completely different spaces, but just owners in business, the challenges that you have day to day. And through that dialogue, it was, hey, well, have you thought about this? And, you may be able to spin it this way. And sometimes it's just a sharing and the reciprocation of those conversations. They were very helpful for me, and to that extent, sometimes when you're in it, you kind of don't see it. But equally, the planning and working through, some type of growth plan. I'm pro proper preparation prevents poor performance. So you should I'm always typically thinking, 6 months to 12 months down the road and what things are going to look like, and working on opportunities, that far in advance. But you got to keep throwing something out there and see what sticks. And sometimes, it's just about following the money also. If you're in tune to the emerging trends and watching what's happening, you just got to find your niche. Don't be. It's research is everything, is what I'm saying, and being connected to the right partners. And once you're there, you got access to information. You're bound to find your way some kind of way.
Yeah, that's great advice. And you have to be bold enough to take the action too. It's one thing to kind of intellectually see it, but you also took the action. You used your network, you used your resources, you used your partners, and helped each other kind of solve a problem for folks.
Absolutely.
So now you mentioned GWBC a few times here. Talk about why specifically was that important? Did you know about GWBC when you started, or how did you kind of find it and decide to get involved with the organization?
God, getting involved, it's like one of those things you kind of have to kiss, a lot of toads before you get to your print,
right.
the prints there. And honestly, it was trial and error, just over my 18 years of being in business, you try things. If you're committed to the education and developing your talent, and being a true professional in your space, you should be pushing and hungry for information. I hope anyone who's listening, they're taking this as some solid advice here. But through that, it was again going through just multiple exchanges there. As I began, like I said, learning more, because I was self-taught initially, just from a procurement perspective, and then you started seeing these common denominators, in terms of where you want to go, connected in terms of, hey, if this person has this opportunity, I'm looking for when it's expiring. And so I would do kind of a reverse look up there. And some of the common denominators that kept showing were, between the SBA, the graded, GWBC, and these certifications. And what does this mean? And if I, would see another company, I would stalk them who was doing anything even similar. And they were affiliated. So, hey, if they're affiliated and they're successful, that's where I need to be. And just, I would guess being savvy enough to just, again, you cannot be remissive about that research. But once I landed there, it was an aggressive process. You really have to be. I wasn't prepared to be as exposed as you go through and going to that certification piece. But I truly appreciated it. It prepared me for. It was kind of an internal check for me to making sure that I'm right, not only just on paper, that we're prepared for things like reserves and being able to shift when and being ready when the opportunity presents itself. It was always kind of in that aspect, but having gone through the process with GWBC, and even from it kind of prepares you for applying for your first business loan. If you can meet that mark and knowing just how extensive that process was, I developed a level of appreciation, and it's the prestige. It became a badge of honor, and with that, it's opened me up for so many other opportunities and access, and it's an accomplishment, quite frankly. And so, in landing there, with GWBC, it is one of those things where like the who's who among women business owners is there, are there. And I would not trade it for anything else in the world. If you're not already there, strive to get there. It's been a huge benefit for the firm. And even with opportunities like, here this morning, it's as a business owner, the best you can do, all you can do is make those decisions with the information that you have available, at that time and based on what those challenges are. A true fundamental appreciation for me, with being, a member of GWBC is one that it helps me in the planning forward. Pushing, that thought process, pushing the expansion, not allowing you to really settle for just being mediocre. This is an organization of very, very strong and talented women, and I honestly, I feel privileged to be considered to be among the group. And for anyone out there who's listening, it's one of the places where I stopped there. Once you kind of get that certification, it just opened up so many doors. It was an exchange for us in terms of, hey, I don't necessarily need to get an 8A certification or 8A, all those other things there. It truly has been a result of our successors of being here. So in a nutshell,
I think it's like you say, the saying is iron sharpens iron. You're around smart people, you're around encouraging people, you're around talented people, and it just makes you better. Being around those people, they raise the bar to help you raise the bar, and everybody wins when everybody kind of gets together like this and helps each other.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You couldn't have said it better.
Now, in your work, who is the person that you need more of? Like, who do you need to know that we can help you with? What kind of folks do you want to get in front of that we can maybe help you?
Absolutely. And anyone definitely in that procurement asset management. So if they are, in the compliance officers who are everyone, almost every, corporation or county, or everyone has assets. And if you're thinking there, not just from what it takes to maintain them right now, I am pushing and advocating, looking for financial recovery opportunities. There are so many things that's unfortunately, as a result, from the our current, state of the nation, a lot of people, different delinquencies have lost revenues. In some cases, things have been sent out by lenders, and some things may have been fraudulently done. We are set up much like a private eye. So our financial recovery department is stellar, and we do have that capacity to recover from a non-traditional debt perspective, from utilizing our systems and software. So, any company out there, if it's collecting outstanding power bills or outstanding loans, student loans, we can collect on and help the recovery in any aspect. If you're thinking from an asset management perspective and the maintenance there, custodial, if in fact they're looking for, to maintain inside of the actual just purely custodial work, there's nothing, extensive about explaining that, or landscaping, or we have a GC on our team. So we are quite diverse with regard to our maintenance department. So if anyone is there and listening, the opportunities you hear, and we think POSolutions can be a good fit for you, please, I welcome the opportunity to have a conversation or to maybe do a capabilities briefing, with that potential, compliance, officer team. But we equally, follow, just key opportunities and just agencies that are typically a good fit that I'm thinking of. But you just never know who may has a portfolio of assets that they may need a unique service for. So I would, tend to say, highlight more about the services that we can provide and are readily able to go at this point, as opposed to, kind of calling out a particular agency,
Right.
individually at this moment.
Now, you're still doing work with the homeowners and condominiums associations?
Oh, absolutely. That is the basis, of POSolutions. So, in that aspect, we have 7 licensed agents who are staff members who are out and they have their portfolio of properties. We have a variation between full service or financial only services. Mm-hmm. Revenue wise, and that component, it's close to about $8 million that we oversee for that pool of clients. So yes, if those compliance officers or listeners are actually on their board of directors in their neighborhoods, and you're not quite happy with your management firm, or you're doing it right now in a self-managed capacity, feel free to reach out for us. We're based here in Douglasville, but we do service throughout the entire metro area. So we have communities from Duluth, Johns Creek, all the way to Lithonia. So we're throughout the metro area. And on that HOA condo side, we eat, breathe, and sleep that, and that is something that has been the basis. Truly, Lee, if from a real estate and asset management perspective, because some people, you say, hey, well, you're a broker, a licensed agent. Some will immediately go to, hey, is that commercial sales or residential sales? And many of our colleagues so choose to be one or the other. We are in that property management, side of things, that asset management. And I honestly look at that from the aspect of when you're thinking about any real estate transaction, in mastering the art of efficient property management / asset management, we are going to be there before, during, and after that process. So from the point of inception, whether it's that developer, that entity that's looking to create the entity, how that's set up, to, helping walk through the creation, the building of the property, even, potentially selling or what have you, to the end of it, once they're ready to transition off. And now you want to keep it maintained and keep that property up to, exceptional standing, that niche area of property and asset management, we are in fact resilient. And because of that, in understanding that, and I will say this, and not to just belabor, but you mentioned there on that HOA side. So in knowing, and as we evolved over on the procurement space and started doing those sub work and working in asset management for, foreclosures and things, that were happening, for HUD and et cetera, though having access to that information and knowing how that affects our neighborhoods, because ultimately our goal is to, create, stronger and safer communities that preserve value. And that could be, not just from a neighborhood management program, but again, that asset management, because if you're talking about driving economic development, you want those neighborhoods to remain intact. You don't want them to become transient. And now you've got absentee owners. And when you're talking about companies that want to buy into a county and coming into an area, what does that look like for the families? And then, and I get really excited when I think about just although broad, very specific support and assistance that we provide at POSolutions when you're thinking about, asset management. So I charge my agents to, hey, to really be better so we can have conversations, and understanding because of relationships. Hey, what does this mean from fair housing if you've got an implied service animal, at a pool area, and how do you deal with it? So I really have an appreciation just for understanding the law and legalities around it, and making sure that my team is equally, equipped and versed in those areas. It's a benefit, to our clients and our partners, because it's a representation not only just of the work, and the level of care and excellence that we look to provide, but fundamentally, all of it ties back into, preserving the asset, and again, building that stronger, resilient community, that neighborhood. So now it really does become a motivating and kind of self-fulfilling thing there when, you can look and see and saying, hey, the work that we're doing, it's increased, it's making that county better by this, it's making this neighborhood better in this way. And now you have, these companies looking to, acquire and maybe put their hubs in that location because you've got families there, they're thriving, their jobs, their opportunities. So I just really get excited about it. And just being that very niche, I wouldn't trade it for the world.
Now, if somebody wants to learn more, is there a website?
Absolutely. You can certainly reach out to us again, POSolutions. That's P as in Paul, O as in open, solutions with an S on the end, one word. And you can get us at POSolutions.net via the web. Our office number, 678-715-1430, or feel free to reach out to me directly. I'm a very hands-on leader. And again, my name is Shandron Pemberton. You can get me at Shan, SHAN, at POSolutions.net.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your story today. You're doing important work, and we appreciate you.
Thank you so very much. It was a pleasure to be here. And I appreciate your candor and dialogue this morning.
All right. This is Lee Cantor. We will see you all next time on GWBC Open for Business.